I want to say that as someone that has observed a man give his life for our country, that it is extremely important that we honor the fallen, that we respect their sacrifice, that we live our lives to honor that man or that woman. They gave everything for the defense of freedom. You know, there's a lot of ways that a man can die on planet Earth. It could be an accident, it could be a sickness, it could be tragic, it could be old age. But the best way to die, if you had to pick one way to die, despite how painful it could be, the best way to die is to die for the defense of freedom and give someone else the gift of life because you traded into death on behalf of them. There's nothing more beautiful than that. And I defy anybody to take issue with that. There is nothing more beautiful than a man laying down his life so that someone else can have freedom and enjoy the rest of their life. Now, when Memorial Day rolls around every year, I think that the veterans that have been in combat and seen men die, it holds a special place in their heart, probably above the rest of the country's heart. And I'm not trying to take away anything from anyone else that's not seen the horrors of combat. I'm not trying to take anything away from you there. I'm just saying that it has a different flavor for those that have been in it and those that have observed someone give their all. But that does not diminish the importance of the rest of the country and the community that benefited from that person giving their life. It does not preclude them to living their life for the honor of that man or woman that made that sacrifice. I think sometimes it's easier because it's easier for a vet that knew a guy face to face when he gave everything. It's easier for him to take that day very sober, very serious, because he thinks about him every day. You know, it does make a difference. Now, what I'm really getting at here is a fact that every single person ought to keep in the forefront of their mind. The reason that we respect these men or these women that fell in combat and gave their all for us, the ultimate reason that we respect that is because they did something that closely mirrors what Jesus Christ did for us. And I'm coming at you today. The creation of this video is Good Friday, the day that Jesus was delivered up, where he sacrificed his body and his life on the cross, and he bled a bloody, horrible death. And he did it for freedom. We respect those that have fallen in combat for freedom, ultimately because we respect the sacrifice of Jesus. And their death on a battlefield is the closest thing that we've seen in the last 2,000 years to what he did. If you think about a man jumping on a grenade to save the life of his buddy next to him, there is not a more Christ-like thing that could ever be done on planet Earth than that sacrifice right there. So the question is, are you going to church this Sunday? Are you going to take your wife and kids to church and hear a message about the sacrifice of the King? Jesus was not the lowly PFC. He wasn't a private. He wasn't a lance corporal. He was the King of Israel. And he came down to earth, and he was one of his brothers. He was one of the brethren of Israel. He rose up from living amongst these men, and he was their king. Many knew it, many believed it, but many had no freaking idea who he was and listened to the claims that he made and denied that he was in fact the one that he said he was, that he was the Son of God, that he was the King of Israel, that he was the Son of David, the coming Messiah, that as the one to sit upon the throne of David, that he would come back on the clouds of heaven someday. And when he said those words, the high priest could take no more. And that was it. That was the nail in the coffin for him at that point in time. And so here's the issue. You know, we talk about observing Memorial Day and giving honor to the fallen. Are you observing the Memorial Day today? The day that the King of the universe came down, became a man, lived and died for humanity, for freedom. Because there's a war going on, in case you didn't know. The reason this whole planet is so screwed up is because there's a giant war that has been ongoing since the creation of this planet. And men have taken one of two sides. There's the side of truth and light, and there's the side of lies and darkness. And you're on one side or the other, whether you like it or not. If you exist, if you got a heart beating in your chest, if you're breathing air into your lungs, you are on one of those sides. You are either with Christ or you're with Satan. You are for Christ or you are against him. That's the truth. Probably some people out there that don't like what I have to say. I could give a crap. Because it's all about honoring the King. Honoring the sacrifice of the King. Honoring his blood that he shed for us. And forever remembering him. And as we live our lives, us veterans, as we continue to live our lives to honor the fallen. You know, I'm not going to go out there and be a drug addict because, you know what? I got buddies to live up to. I'm going to do good in life. I'm going to raise my family to be productive. In the same way, I'm going to live my life to serve the King because he died for me. He knew my name. When he was hanging on that cross, he knew there was a guy out there named Joe that was going to be sitting in a truck someday making a video. He knew who I was. He knew how many hairs would be on my head or how many wouldn't be on my head. He knew everything that I would go through in life. He knew the mistakes and the sins that I would commit. And he said, I'm dying for Joe. And he knows who you are too. He knows everything about your life. He planned the day that you would be born. And he knows the day that you'll die. And he knows everything in between there. I was reading this morning in the Gospel of Luke, and because I remember, I was reading the story about the arrest and the crucifixion of Jesus. And I was just kind of struck by something. As Luke accounts the two thieves nailed up on the crosses next to Jesus. And it just details out their conversation. I just want to say this because there's a lot of guys that have made a lot of error in their ways over the course of their life. And they think that they're beyond repair. They think that they're too far gone. They think that, I know Jesus exists. I know he's out there. I know he died for me, but he can't change me. He can't do anything for me because I've screwed up too bad. I got a trail of broken relationships in my life. I've let people down. I haven't held up my end of the bargain. I've done this or that. I've been in and out of jail. I freaking screwed up, man. There is one of these thieves on the cross, and he listened to the other one mock Jesus and say, if you're the Christ, then why don't you come down off the cross and get us down too? And the other thief, he said, basically, we're getting what we deserve. We deserve to be up here. We've done bad. And he said, Lord, when you come into your kingdom, please remember me. That's all he had. He had nothing to offer Jesus. He had nothing to offer the King of Israel. There he was, condemned for the way that he had lived his life. He knew he was a screw up. He knew that he had freaking, gone the whole 9 yards, done everything wrong. And he's like, I'm getting what I deserve. What else could I ask for? But he said, Lord, will you remember me when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus said, surely you'll be with me today in paradise. Because that man had a saving belief and faith in Christ. He knew he was not good enough, but the king was. And you're not good enough, and I'm not good enough. But the king is. He is good enough. And he has taken every sin from my life and washed it with his blood. And he can take every sin in your life and wash it clean with his blood, because his blood was righteous. Just wanted to come at you today and say that.